I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with Clifton Collins Jr, who stars in Clint Bentley's indie drama, Jockey. First of all, I want to congratulate you firstly on your Indie Spirit nomination for Best Actor, and also your Best Actor win back at Sundance, which feels like a million years ago. What do accolades like that mean to you?
It's I'm still figuring it out, truth told, because it's just hard to fathom it. You just you focus on the moment and the job, and you don't really think about accolades because it's got nothing to do with the creative process. But when you do something collectively with a group of passionate people, a crew of 10, and three actors and a bunch of jockeys, it's like a great success. It's like a great victory when you get to tell something that is so that feels so authentic and so real, and more importantly, one that the jockeys, a film that the jockeys can be proud of. I think that's the one of the bigger rewards. Don't get me wrong. I love an Indie Spirit Award. Like I couldn't even talk when I heard the news that morning. It was just too many tears getting in the way. But
Yeah,
my jockeys loved the film, so it was like once I got their stamp of approval, and then the rest of the community following suit was a beautiful thing. And obviously, the Independent Spirit Award is, I mean, I'm still processing it.
no,
I remember
because
being there for Capote with Philip, rest in peace.
that's right. Like, there's a lot of there's a lot of great performances. This is a really strong year for film. For you to be like singled out and included in that group, when I saw your name, I was like, yes, this is
Mm,
wonderful. It's so great that you've been recognized. So I just honestly, congratulations.
oh man.
You mentioned the approval stamp of approval of the jockeys. For people who don't really understand this, you have small budget films, and then you have this. This is like micro budget, small crew, and you are immersed within this community of jockeys, horse riders in Arizona. Um, so, what does it actually mean to you to get there? Firstly, for them to welcome you in, because they're probably a pretty cloistered group of people, and then for them to say, "Yeah, you did us proud, and we really love the movie."
It's something you work really hard at, like as soon as you get there. Because one, you want to belong to any really environment, or group of people that you're representing, and that's the only way that you're going to get the truth, and to win them over. So I to do that, I was like, hey, I just wanted the if they were fans, if they weren't, better for me, because I'd have some kind of anonymity. But if they were fans, I wanted to get that out the way. So I was like, hey, you guys can ask me whatever you want. We can talk about whatever you want, but I'm really here to be with you guys and help you guys. Whatever you guys need from me, help wise, with the saddling, the horses, anything. I'm here for that. And if you want to talk shop, there's a time and place, but I'm here to absorb your world so I can portray it as accurately as possible, because we didn't want to exploit it. We wanted to be true to the world. I think any real artist wants to do that and longs for it. So honestly, I think it was the last shot. Um, it's the one where you see me kind of just walking down. It's a pretty long shot. I think I just remember the jockeys knew that we were getting ready to leave, so that looming sadness was creeping up on us, and it's sad for all of us. It's sad for me. It's sad for my crew, my director, my producer, and they were getting sad too. And I just remember some of the jockeys hung out for those last few takes, and they were crying because they knew what the story was about. They knew what the scene was about. So to know that you're touching the people you're representing in such a fashion is like, I can't think of a bigger joy, really,
Yeah,
because it's
yeah,
not Seabiscuit and it's not Secretariat.
no,
It's not that at all.
it's not. Like as I was saying to Moises the other day, I've seen plenty of great movies about this industry and about winning the next race, and that's fantastic. I didn't really feel like seeing that again, and this is not that at all. There is a real sadness that surrounds Jackson, your character. It's like he, because he's aging. He's past his prime. he's tired, he's broken, but he just wants to win that next championship. And I think that's actually really universal. So as much as we get an insight into the horse riding industry, especially this community, but we also, I've really actually, he resonated with me personally. Why do you think that is? Why do you think people are really attracted to this particular character?
The humanity. They're not superheroes that have this make believe, kryptonite or things like that. It's a kryptonite that's familiar to every human. It's called mortality.
Yeah.
And there's so many of us that have been through so much these past 2 years, 3 years. You just want to hang on and make it through and just have one more hurrah or one more beautiful day or one more ride into the sunset, so to speak. In my case, literally one more ride into the sunset. So
yeah,
I think everybody can identify with the things, the obstacles and challenges that get in our way, and how does one overcome that, and the struggles to do so. It's identifiable. Anytime we can identify with the struggle, I think that's a filmmaker's way of sucking the audience in to the film and to the role, into the world.
Yeah, it's our way in. Exactly. That is exactly right. You said the word sunset, and it reminds me that Adolfo Veloso's cinematography is just out of this world.
Legend.
Like using available light, obviously at dawn and dusk, which is very appropriate for jockeys, that, as I learned, because I didn't even know that. And I'm just, there's a great shot, for example, of you as Jackson sitting outside your trailer with this, you just black silhouette with this beautiful sunset in the background. I'll never forget that shot, actually. I'm just wondering what does it make a difference to your performance when you are, using available light and trying to scramble because you don't have the budget and you're just trying to make things work, so something special might come about because of that?
Absolutely. It's the same reason why I believe so many the directors' sophomore films fail when they come from the independent world. Suddenly they got this influx of money that robs them of their creativity and their ability to improvise a creative means of visual storytelling and or audio storytelling. So when you get all this money, I love skeleton crews. I love guerrilla shooting, all the different music videos I've directed throughout the years. I love it. And some of this I learned even on Traffic, watching Soderbergh operate, and sometimes using, we would guerrilla shoot sometimes in front of, a lot of those people were all real people in Mexico, and they didn't know we're making a movie because we're so minimalized. It adds to, it makes it easier to blur the lines as an actor. It makes it easier to get lost in the world when you don't have like all these people screaming and yelling and trying to, make sure the cables and electricity and the lights and this and that's all there. So when you don't have that in the way, and you got a DP like Adolfo that is going to have you, he's going to be doing his best job to stay out of your way as well, to let the moments organically happen. And he's got a magnificent eye, very thoughtful, very caring, never yelled, just a sheer joy to work with. And I think I want to say by the end of day 3, day 4, I was completely confident that his sensitivity in regards to actors and the moments that they're having and moments that they will go through or moments that they're approaching, he's going to know where to be and when. And he's also very aware of the kind of actors that he's working with, meaning that he was aware that we had an awareness of our own light in situations like that. So it's critical to a film like this, because we didn't have the lighting packages, which I love, because your performance isn't being molded around. Watch the C stand, or you got a Groucho this, you got a banana this, and things creep in, and you're just being. So you're just working on the emotions and working on that kind of stuff.
It surprises me that not more films are made this way, to be honest. I know, it's probably harder, but and you're you're at the mercy of the elements, but something really magical could happen. It reminds me of a movie like Nomadland. This movie gave me a lot of the same kind of vibes. So Greg Quidart and Clint Bentley wrote this, but Clint Bentley, this is his directorial debut, and I'm just wondering, it's so obvious what Adolfo Veloso brings to the table. What does Clint Bentley bring for his first film? What did you most value about him and what he did on this film?
Oh, he was a wealth of wisdom. I mean, both him and Gray, they've been creative partners for quite some time. So Clint comes from his father was a jockey, and Clint himself gave it a run as well. So he has a lot of personal experience. So that was fun to pull from. You know, that doesn't mean that I'm going to use everything he gives me, but it's nice. It's nice to know what his mindset was at that time. My job going in there and embedding with the jockeys is to get a current up-to-date beat on the culture and what's going on there. So, you know, it's at that point where I realize what I can take from what Clint's experience and what I won't need, because Jackson in of himself is a mixture of a bunch of different people, myself included. So he had a lot to bring, and you know, there's a lot of things he went through, both as one who was the son of a jockey, and then also someone who also became a jockey. So he's got those two different perspectives to pull from. Yeah, it's a painful place.
Yeah.
For me too, because I had my own experiences with my dad on the racetracks when I was a kid, and you know, he was an alcoholic, and oftentimes, well, probably all the time, he was, you know, pretty drunk while I was. That was our family time when we did go to the racetracks, was me getting the racing for him and picking out the horses and the jockeys, and you know, I was doing math word problems at a very young age.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like when you're tapping into that kind of raw emotion, especially from your upbringing, and then the director's doing the same from his upbringing and his own past, were there ever moments on set where you realized that this was something that you hadn't experienced before? Like, was there something that you learnt on this movie that you hadn't done, seeing as you've been working for such a long time?
I suppose I don't know that I've ever had this many people all in sync for the same common goal. So you've got this strong collaborative force, albeit a crew of 10, my director and producer included. It's all of them together, and sitting down with Greg Cuidar, producer, and Clint Bentley, the director, both writers, and going through the script and developing the scenes and finding deeper layers to the scenes. That's not something you find in every film. I try to vet my directors if I because very rarely we come across a script that won't need notes. Like, I think Traffic and Capote were probably my two scripts that I didn't have to really put any notes on. So you want to work with someone that's collaborative. That's not like it's, you know, it's a creative process. You want to be a part of the process. And some of these bigger films with these big budgets, they don't allow for that, you know, which might explain why I don't have that many under my belt, unless it's like a Guillermo del Toro's Pacific Rim, who's an incredible collaborator and a wonderful mentor to so many young filmmakers.
Yeah. Speaking of mentorship, it was very apparent to me that you and Moises worked very closely together. Moises explained that there were many occasions where he would just be able to walk up to your room and you would talk about the scenes that were coming up or the ones that you had already done. He's obviously a much younger actor. He's up and coming. He gives the most remarkable performance as well. What did you most value about bringing someone like that under your wings, so to speak, and kind of teaching him what you may have learned when you were his age?
Well, it was round 2 for us.
Yeah, that's right.
We did a film called The Perfect Game way back when, and
yeah.
He was just a hilarious little kid. There was about 5 kids I mentored on that one. So you know, every so often you get to work with children, and they ask you these very real artistic acting questions. When they ask you the real questions, you can't deny them. It's impossible. So there's so many days where they'd be like, "Hey, Sea Dog," because I told them they can call me Sea Dog. We could have breakfast with you. I was like, yeah. So I knew that was like a jam session. We were gonna be having breakfast. They're gonna be asking me real auditioning, acting questions. So that was fun. So now they're all grown ass men. Some have their own families. Their voices are all deep and shit.
Yeah.
And so Moises, just to show him how much I cared. And I had to go through all these old hard drives, like old hard drives. I wasn't like, many of them didn't work for days. I left them plugged in for days. They turned on. And I get the data off, and I found so many beautiful, hilarious clips that Moises didn't even remember doing. I'm like, you remember doing this? He goes, you remember doing this? He was just laughing so hard, like it wasn't even him. And I was like, I got to tell you some ways. Look, I'm so stoked to be working with you again. You know how I jam. I make it available for any actor to reach me. Anybody's got anything to do with the scene can reach me. That's how I like to be. I like to make myself available in that fashion.
Yeah.
So I told Moises, look, man, you've grown up into a beautiful young artist, and you're insanely talented, and you're an adult. I'm still that same idiot from the perfect game. I'm wacky, I'm crazy, sure, present, professional, working, but I'm still that crazy wingnut that you met way back when. So you're gonna be laughing with a bunch, and we're gonna be working our asses off as well. So it's special. It's special when you get to reprise like a relationship so many years later. And I recall even back then I showed a photo to a dear friend of mine, Jacob Vargas, who I've done a bunch of films with. And he was like, man, he goes, that little kid looks like he could be your son. And he said that way back then. So it's just kind of perfect when Clint and Greg were like, what about Moises area? They're like, ooh, you know,
Yeah.
kind of perfect. He's very thoughtful. He's got great ideas. You know, some of that ending monologue evolved because some very pivotal ideas that he brought to the table. Um, so, I mean, the kid's ultra talented,
Yeah.
very dedicated, and I'm very proud of his work in this one. At that moment at the pond, you know, where he's just
Oh,
taken in after I've apologized to him for something I may or may not have done, uh, to see what it meant to him, you know, whether it was real or not. What it meant to him was very real. You know,
yeah.
circumstances aside, which you know, obviously you find out later. But you know, some heavy moments. Heavy
Yeah. You know,
moments thinking about him.
there's so many of those moments actually. My favorite scene's really early on in the film when Gabriel is saying, you know, hey, I'm your son, and Jackson. Like, I love what you do there. It's a less is more mentality, which I love when actors take that approach. So you there's like about 8 different emotions that flash over your face, and then you kind of chuckle uncomfortably, and then you're like, nah, that couldn't have happened. I'm just wondering, but obviously that was very intentional, probably came from the script and Clint's direction, but what was the thinking behind a less is more approach? And do you like acting in that way?
Without a doubt, and that was something early on. I said this to Clint before I even left Los Angeles. I was like, this guy's very methodical, very calculated, and very paced
Yeah,
in his cadence and how he speaks. And I was kind of leaning on a little bit of some young like John Wayne, Red River, you know, that young Duke
yeah,
stagecoach. So yeah, so there's a lot of that, and I say this to a lot of the actors that I coach, and many are those that I mentored that are now adults. Is sure, you might know what your dialogue is and what your lines are and the meaning of those lines, but what's the life in between the lines? What are you thinking when you're not speaking? Are you thinking about the second meal or what your line is, or are you feeling things? And in that particular case, I had a subtle, slight a segue of and a bouye, you know, like no, that's not possible. It's like, you know, your brain throws in these little hyper quick moments of thought,
yeah,
especially when it involves an ex-girlfriend. You know, it can strike the fear of God or the love of God into a man's heart and soul so
yeah,
quickly, and that was the case in that one. uh you know, and to have a moment like that where like, could that be, like, you have all these quick moments of, because I am starting to question my mortality at that point in the scene, because you know, I've got my friends that are ailing and slowly having to retire. There's things happening around me that I can choose to turn a blind eye to, but at some point it's just going to take you down, and you're going to have to be forced to face it. So there's a lot of stuff going on in Jackson's mind in those moments. Um, so yeah, I mean, all that stuff's pretty real. It's those are the scenes like those are the scenes that you walk away from after the yell cut and just have your little breakdown in private, you know, because
yeah.
you've got like detox the emotions.
Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable that you're able to achieve that with the right people. And I think obviously you all got very lucky that you were able to come together for this. You know, we could talk for hours. Unfortunately, we run out of time. This is such a
Oh,
beautiful role for you. It's such an emotional role. It's probably, I think, it's some of your best work ever, and that's really saying something, Clifton. So congrats on that. I hope you win the indie spirit, and we'll hope to see you more on red carpets.
but thank you, brother. Look forward to meeting you in person.